Welcome, kings and queens. Welcome to the show, Menspire. I'm your host, King, joined alongside in the hot seat with brother Theo. And today we're gonna kind of complete our journey through mental health. Like I said in our last show, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We wanted to touch bases on exactly what mental health was, why was it taboo in our community, and how it truly affects the black man. So today we're going to be discussing the different types of mental health, well, mental illnesses, and what they quote unquote look like. Brother Theo, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you for me having me here. I'm ready to close this out. Ready to have a good conversation, man. Hopefully you did well. Hopefully you had a good halfway week. We halfway there.
Yeah, man, we
Hump
halfway
day.
there, halfway.
Yeah, man.
Man, so just to recap, not last week, but our last show, man, we discussed a lot about mental health, the plight of the black man dealing with mental health. Why was it taboo in our community, man? Just touch bases on that for our new listeners who might not was able to catch that episode.
Uh, well, in a nutshell, I feel like the basis of every conversation when you start with black people and mental health is basically getting the stigma, wiping that off, and get everybody comfortable with the idea of it. And then two is hopefully to clear up what therapy actually is. And if I can remember, basically what we covered was how it can affect the community, what's affecting our community, the underlying problems of our community. Some really stems from and is the basis of mental health. What's affecting us from slavery, Jim Crow, and now today we still 50 to 60 years ahead in the future, still dealing with civil rights issues in 2021. Like we got electric cars, but we still getting killed in the street by dogs and eat for nothing. So we're trying to move that forward conversation. We're trying to get some talks in. We talked about legislation too. What can we get down for on paper, black words on white paper, to help us to actually overcome what we've been talking about for over a century.
Exactly. Like you said, these conversations need to be had. They need to be said, and I think that we're just the right good type of guys to actually go ahead and say them.
Absolutely.
So today, like I said, we're going to be discussing a lot as far as what mental illnesses look like.
Okay.
So without any type of, with both of us dealing with mental health, mental issues, if you were going into it blind, how would you describe someone who was dealing with mental health? Like you just had to paint a picture.
So I've been in this mental health space probably for personally 2 years. I've been to therapy myself 2 years, and it's hard to say because you can't you can't paint with a one brush with a broad stroke. Like the common misconception, what we talked about is basically the only thing when people say mental health, the only people think of is a straight jacket, someone in a straight jacket getting carried off to a mental asylum. That's not it. The spectrum is so wide and broad with so many colors. But there is a specificity. Like there are people who have maybe who get sad sometimes, but you're not exactly depressed. Like in our generation, people are throwing that word around a lot. And respect to anyone who might think they are, I encourage you to go get checked out or whatever, because you may have it. But sometimes you just may feel sad, and this may be a bad day, and you aren't depressed. People who are depressed sometimes don't shower. Like, and it's not like they don't choose not to shower. It's like I just don't feel like getting up and getting in the shower. That's
Definitely.
day to day. Like
Definitely.
we as human beings shower every day. So if you feel like not showering, then you're depressed. Then you're depressed. So what it looks like, I can't say. It doesn't look like one thing. Back when the actor Robin Williams died, people kept posting these. I won't say memes. It's not funny, but these pictures of him smiling, and the caption would be, "This is what depression looks like." And that's the basis of that isn't to say it's actually people smiling. Is you don't know. There is no broad stroke. People are smiling through depression, laughing through depression. They're going on trips and being depressed, but they don't know it. So there's no, I can't paint you one picture because that in itself isn't depression. It's many different pictures and faces.
Definitely, definitely. Just to touch back on what you said, man. When you're dealing, like I said, you can have those moments where you're just sad. You know, everyone has those moments. Everyone has feelings. No one is taking that away from you. But and speaking as someone who deals with depression, there are days where I don't want to get out of bed. There's days where I don't want to be bothered. There's days where I'm truly at a loss as far as what my day to day operation should be,
Mm.
and that's depression. And like I said, looking at me, you would not think that. I know with me, when I first started kind of looking into mental health and just kind of trying to find out what was going on. I personally, and I say this with a grain of salt. When people would tell me that you might have a mental health issue, immediately my mind went to the tin cap guys.
Mm.
As far as you're instantly deemed crazy, you're instantly deemed unstable. So for me, without prior knowledge, that was the picture that I was painting.
Okay.
So of course, having someone tell you, "Hey man, you might be dealing with this," instantly, especially as being black, bro. I ain't crazy, bro. That's one thing we don't talk. Black folk ain't crazy.
That's what the lack of information. That's what I'll be like. Conversation is big. It's like, it's weird because like, once you go through therapy, it's an enlightenment process is what a lot of people like to call it. It's once the light gets shed on you and your eyes get open, it's like you don't fear those words. It's like when someone says you're dealing with something, you're like, yeah, I am, and what,
definitely.
and what? I'm a human being, so I'm gonna deal with crap.
You really go back and sit here and try to piece it together and say, yeah, man, I am dealing with this. And for anyone who's dealing with any type of mental illness, I want you to understand that it's okay that you are dealing with it. And it's okay that people don't understand that you're dealing with it, or they don't know that you're dealing with it. Majority of people who deal with mental health issues lead normal lives. And you would not think that they're dealing with these underlying issues until you actually know and talk to these people. That's why it's very important that we have these discussions, because you can easily write someone off as many times as it's happened, like we said in our last show, as many times as it happened with our youth, with people that they're being written off as having all these diseases and ailments when they're really just dealing with something.
Mm-hmm. And I watch a lot of, not a lot, but there's few people I watch to get my information. As far as Dr. Umar Johnson goes, they're mistreated and misdiagnosed. So for young kids, the whole ADHD and ADD thing, me personally, I don't believe in labeling someone as ADHD, especially a child. So ADHD is just attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I've been hearing that word since I was 5-10 years old. If someone says you're hyperactive, that's not a mental. Technically, ADHD is like a mental, kind of like a mental illness. It's under the attention deficit umbrella. If you're 5 years old and you're hyperactive, you're 5 years old. So you probably just had a honey bun or something. That you're on a sugar high, but now you have ADHD and they're giving you pills. Like, we gotta really destigmatize this thing, especially in our community too, and especially amongst men. It needs to be a real conversation.
Definitely, man. It's hard. It is hard, man. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and we were kind of just throwing some things out as far as what I was going to be discussing out here, discussing today, and he brought up a very good point to me as far as from the time that he was maybe 8-9 years old, he was told by parents, by teachers, that he had ADHD. And he had all these different types of pills. And I was like, man, but him being now 25, he doesn't take it anymore. He told me how much better he feels without taking them. But I'm like, for all these years, you were literally being doped.
Fed pills.
You being fed pills by people who told you you had ADHD, when in actuality, dog, You were a kid,
being a kid. Like,
being a kid.
and I want to. Well, we should. You're talking about it go too deep. If he's a black man, that's over. Young black men in the school system are overdiagnosed per Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm regurgitating what he's saying, and they give us the behavioral issue. Like if you're not ADHD, you have behavioral problems.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, it's not enough black teachers, especially black male teachers, where black men are left without a father in the home to give that kind of discipline. Of course, you're gonna act out. If the only thing you're seeing and interacting with, as far as the authoritative figure, no offense to women, is women. For a young boy, he's gonna be rambunctious. Period. It's just him. It's something we wire different as young men, and that masculine energy to not dominate, but to bring that stability and structure is needed. And of course, he's gonna be ADHD. Not to speak on your friend, I don't know whether or not he had father in the home, but of course he's gonna have ADHD. One of our billionaires is not misdiagnosed, but you didn't know, but he just came out with it. Elon Musk. He has Asperger's. Asperger's is a mental disorder on the spectrum. So Asperger's is basically mild mental. What's the official political correct term? It's a mild mental handicap, mental retardation. Basically, he's not fully mentally handicapped. He's one step below. He's fully functional. He reads physics books, and he has a company into which he has a private company outside of the United States government where he blasts spaceships on trying to get to Mars. And he has Asperger's. Nobody on Earth, at least not for me, and I know in the public, knew this man has a mental illness, yet he became a billionaire. So what? Even if he, let's say your friend settled with saying he had ADHD, as long as he kicked them pills and keep living his day-to-day life, he can do whatever he wants to.
Exactly.
A mental illness is not a death sentence or even a jail sentence. You can live day-to-day life with whatever they claim you have.
And I think that's what people always get confused. The moment that they hear someone has a mental illness or that they might be dealing with something, instantly you're put into this box that you're supposedly can't get out of. And that's the biggest misconception that I've ever heard. I mean, there's so many avenues, and like I said, with him, he leads a full normal life. Works, great guy, goes out every day, goes to work, goes to the gym, does everything that a man does, but was diagnosed with ADHD. And for years, he was written into this box of having behavior problems, being problematic, having all these issues. And like I said, it's so important that, and I'm amazed with, like I said before, I'm amazed with how millennials and Gen Z are now taking these notions that they're hearing and actually applying them to day-to-day life and saying, okay, yeah, we do need to talk about these issues that are plaguing our communities.
Yeah, and I want to tread back to the whole what I said about the depression thing and whether or not you're depressed or not. I want to re-emphasize and make sure it's clear to state. Once you catch that feeling, and the only word you have to describe is depression, because that's the only thing you know. The lack of information can be deafening. I'm not saying you might not have depression. I'm not trying to tell you how you feel. What I'm saying is you might want to seek some help and speak to somebody about it before, talk it out, you know what I'm saying, figure it out. Maybe someone else can help you figure it out. And then try to seek professional help if it's within your resources. If you got a wherewithal, you know what I'm saying? Because one thing I believe in is I read the book 48 Laws of Power, and one thing I believe is manifestation. Speak words into the universe and it will come to fruition. Whether, not to bring religion, but I believe same thing as if you're a Christian, power of the tongue. The Bible speaks of the power of the tongue, so it's real. It's spoken across different religions and even non-religions. What you speak comes to life, so you can speak either death or life into yourself. So don't say you're depressed before you actually know it, because you can become depressed.
You can actually I won't say trick your mind, but you can
Yeah.
actually trick your mind into believing that you're depressed
Yeah. So
or that you're dealing with. Same thing with with all the other mental illness. You can actually, and it's just like a sickness. You can talk yourself into becoming sick. You can talk yourself into you're actually coughing, sneezing, like, oh man, I don't feel well, I don't feel good. Yeah, because you're literally talking sickness on yourself.
mhm.
So it's the same rules apply.
Yeah. Not to throw off track. I just had to.
Oh no, that definitely is
Gotta
on
be
track.
PC.
That definitely got to go on track. And the reason why I wanted to ask, as far as the image of how would someone be portrayed, if you look in entertainment, whether it's TV, movie, whatever the case would be, you will see a spectrum of characters who are put in films and actually have, if you actually look at the characters, you're like, oh, okay, man, you can tell that this person is suffering from X, Y, and Z. If these were real people, these people will be suffering from X, Y, and Z. But they're put in these roles as comic relief.
Okay.
I know, and we'll get more into it, and just because we're talking about depression, everyone has seen Winnie the Pooh. Depression. Who do you instantly think of for Winnie the Pooh? Eeyore, who spent most of his days with the rest of the gang, literally moping,
Yeah.
talking slow. But he's depicted as, just, if I honestly had to put it, he's depicted as someone who's just like having a bad life. But in actuality, those are literally signs of depression.
I ain't never thought about it that way. And that cartoon was from the damn 40s too.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure they didn't even realize that. I'm pretty sure, and that could be. I'm weird about television. I feel like, not to say we shouldn't look at it, but it's programming. They might have put out a conceived notion, so to speak. Like this, like you said, this is depression when it's really not. I don't know I wonder if the writers really thought about that shit, like, because that's not all as it. Another, not to get off track, but a movie series, The Hangover. You watched The Hangover?
Mm-hmm.
So the comic relief is Alan. There's in the second movie, they in a desert, and they just they thought they were gonna get back their friend, and they just met Chow, and they're at the gas station, and he's gassing up the car, and his friend asks him, he's like, hey, we don't have to really like worry about him, like, he's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with him. And it's like, whether there is or not, he thought there was a risk. He was a risk factor for whether or not he had a mental illness. And even, I think he came out and said he had Asperger's too, funny enough. But he was depicted as the funny guy, always the comic relief and whatnot. And that's same thing, bring it back to Robin Williams. Some people mask or hide what they are, so it doesn't always look like one thing. But to track back to that Winnie the Pooh thing, man, I might go home and like YouTube Winnie the Pooh and watch his mannerisms and shit. That's
Yeah, man.
a good point.
And it all goes back to the image that we imagine versus the reality. Like I said, we take these, and you can literally go through. I actually was looking at it over the weekend, and I was looking at all these different mental illnesses, and I was going to say, okay, well, what in pop culture or what in entertainment, what characters in entertainment share these characteristics? And there's so many.
Yeah.
There are so many, and I honestly believe that they put them there to actually show, well, not to actually show the mental illness side of it, but to kind of give them leeway as far as, like with I forgot his name. Alan.
Yeah.
Like you said, to show what's wrong with them.
So, what was the other movie? The Joke. I think we talked. I don't know if we did. Excuse me if we did, not to be repetitive. But the movie The Joker. that struck me because I was like a year into therapy, and I actually cried during one of the scenes because I could relate to him too much, and I myself have not been diagnosed, but I know the feeling. And I'm going off kill here, but it's the treatment of people of how this perception. Once people give you the perception of what it is or it's not, it's the treatment that comes with it. That's a problem too. It just struck me as we was talking. So I feel like the scene that I'm talking about. He's talking. So one of the professionals that helps in with some people who have mental illness is one's a social worker, and some even though some social workers can professionally become a therapist if they come licensed and do therapy work, most aren't. Most are just caseworkers who just funnel through a whole bunch of people who either don't have insurance or can't pay for good health care. They go see a social worker, and he went to go see her, and he's talking, and while he's talking, she like cuts him off while he's venting as someone who has a mental health issue needs to. She cuts him off and asks him, "Are you taking your pills?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he tries to continue to talk, and then she cuts him off again. And then he says, "You don't listen, do you?" It says, all you do is when I come in here is ask me, am I having negative thoughts?" He said, and I quote, "I have negative thoughts all the time." And that struck me. That just hit. It stopped in that movie scene. In the movie theater, I was with my ex at the time. We was married, and I just sat there and looked. And I was like, that shit real, and people don't know it. As you said, you walked around with life. He was happy-go-lucky doing, and then when it comes to time for him to be vulnerable, someone's not listening to him. I think that's a big misconception also of when people do come out and tell you this. Not only do we might stigmatize it, but some people may not even be paying attention or even believe you. And so people with mental illnesses are either scared or worried about what you might do, regardless of whether it's positive or negative. Maybe you'll just call someone and say, "Oh, I'm scared for his life. He may do this and such and such." It's like, no, I just need someone to talk to right quick. Maybe I was depressed, or maybe I'm scared because my job's about to, lay me off or something. And if I do have negative thoughts, don't just jump automatically to call fucking a psych ward or something. Like, maybe
Definitely.
I needed you as a friend.
Definitely. I mean, I know the first time compared to the more recent times that I talked about my depression with people that were close to me. The first time, like I said, I got the responses of, "Man, I never would have thought that it was you that was dealing with that." But I also got, at the same time, I also got people that were kind of side-eyed me and were looking at me like, so what now? Like, what do we do? Like, do I gotta, I gotta look out for you? Do I gotta make sure that you good?
Call on you, check on you all the time.
I just need you to be in the moment and listen. That's it. That's all I need you to do at this very second.
At this moment, I was about to say, at this moment, sometimes like this ain't my break. Like, people get that misconception. Like, when I'm telling you, this ain't the breaking point. Like,
Exactly.
when people have mental illness break down and break through, there's little talking going on. There's like, people are either probably crying or pacing, you know what I'm saying, picking up stuff, throwing stuff. Me sitting here talking to you, this isn't the time for you to, yeah, you can be worried, but this isn't the time for you to act or react. Now it's for you time to listen. I'm able to voice these words. If I wasn't, then you should be worried. Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, man. So, and I don't want to get off topic too much, but so I was actually doing some research, and I was trying to find out what are the most common mental illnesses found in the Black community. So I ended up pulling up this list, and the first three that came up, I honestly was like, yeah, that's without a doubt. So the first three that came up was, of course, depression, anxiety, and PTSD.
I would, especially around these times, if that whatever article you read is recent, it's definitely around these times. The death of us as Black men is being on media 24/7.
Exactly.
We're being programmed and fed stuff about ourselves even after we're killed 24/7. So I mean, I ain't gonna lie, so my anxiety's high. I got PTSD personally, and that's rampant sometimes. So I would believe it. I mean, we're talking coming from slavery, civil rights, Jim Crow, and now we got a police brutality issue. I would say we're pretty anxious. It has a little PTSD, and we have a right to it.
Oh, definitely, 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 and that's why I said that it was amazing when I was looking at it. I was sitting here just kind of going through and reading and everything. So first and foremost, because they had them ranked, they said first and foremost, number one was depression. Depression is characterized by a persistent low mood that interferes with everyday functions. That goes back to saying it's okay for you to be sad. Everyone has those days where they're sad. Everyone has those days where, we just have some bad luck or just down on our luck. But when it impedes and interferes on your everyday function, that is a whole nother story. Like I said, when you don't shower, when you don't feel like getting out of bed, when you don't eat, you're experiencing, or you could be categorized as someone dealing with depression.
For extended, and once again, extended periods of time. I mean, it could be in and out, on and off. But for, let's say that's happening, let's say you don't shower for about 4 days straight for a week, but you do that constantly, like over and over and over for about a month, 2 months, you're depressed, man. It's written. It's as far as society goes today. We shower every day. And if you're not doing that for 4 or 5 days, or you're not eating, yes, bro, you're depressed.
Definitely. So it made me, and it was always it was going. I was going by, of course, like so. Like I said, with this particular show, we're talking about how these mental illnesses look like, or what these mental illnesses look like. So, of course, I'm going through. I'm like, man, so how does society view this particular mental illness? One of the first things that came up, it says, it's someone who's sad. I was like, it got to be more than that. Under that one, it said someone living in a state of self-pity.
I believe that's too simple of a definition. Because technically, I mean, I could be not to be. I'm not self-deprecating, but sometimes I'm like, I do feel sad for myself if something does happen. So like, I'm in a moment where I have to be tested like every 3 weeks. I have to pass these exams. I failed an exam and I had a little bit of self-pity, but I guess what they mean is for, like I said, an extended period of time. Like if you can't get out that funk, if I couldn't get out that funk of failing a test, and it's been like 3-4 weeks, might have to be, you know what I'm saying, a little worried, but I guess they're right.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that, and I think that's what was meant by it, is if you're in that for an extended period of time. Because I mean, when dealing, like I said, as someone who deals with it, there are days, man, I can't even count. It'll seem like I was, from what other people will say, I was in a funk, but I mean that funk lasted for 2.5 weeks. And y'all was thinking that, oh, okay, man, he's gonna, he's just down and out about it. But in actuality, dude, I'm dealing with this, and you're just seeing the surface of it. So I mean, it's definitely I could definitely see why that's one of the number ones that plague our community. A lot of, and especially with black men. You have to think with mental illnesses. The only way that you kind of know that someone's dealing with mental illness is through conversation. And what's the number one thing that most people will say black men lack is conversation.
Communication.
Communication. It was like, oh yeah, y'all don't ever be talking about anything. But like we said last time, the way that we talk is much different from anyone else. I realized that over the weekend. I'm like, dude, I'm talking to some friends, or I could be on the phone talking with my brother, and I'm like, our conversations are much different from if I'm sitting back listening to my wife on the phone with her friends.
100%. It's just it is like, it's two things. Is we are a man, but we're black men. We throw African American on top of that. We have a very different experience, and we've been through stuff specifically that no other demographic has been through. Indian men, black women, white women, Indian women, Asian women. They aren't the Latino men probably have. So let's go like black and brown men do. But between us two, no one has experience. We are literally we walk around with targets on our back in this country. I'm just gonna say America every day. Like we are the foundation of the prison industrial complex. We are the wood and the mud, the concrete that makes the prison industrial complex. If we all got our stuff together like tomorrow, and none of us were criminals, the prison industrial complex would fall. It would be done with. It would be empty. So it's different how we communicate, and sometimes if you don't have that experience, there's other some words we use in a different way, you might not get it, and how we talk, you might not get it. And some would call us aggressive. I just think some of us are aggressive. Let me just be honest. I gotta be transparent. Some of us are aggressive, but it's, you know what I'm saying? There's a reason to it. When you grow up with cops patrolling your block, looking at you like you a real life demon, a dog, like you gotta. And then this country tells you gotta be a protector and provider. You gotta look out for this person, look out for that person. Like there's an amazing amount of anxiety that goes with that. You sitting here worried every day about how everyone around you is gonna be good and how you can protect this person, your little sister, your little cousin, and you gotta worry about yourself. The only time you're worrying about yourself is whether or not you're gonna die. That can mess up someone's brain. That messes up someone's psychology. They psyche back here.
I remember literally, no lie, this is a true story. Before I was working in security and enforcement, I was a contractor. I was doing home improvements, and I went to go. I drove a truck. I went to go get my tags for my truck. It was like around my birthday, so I went to go get my tags, and I just got a new truck. And the lady at the tag office, she was like, "All right, so you like, the standard. You like this tag, you like this tag." I pick a little standard tag. She was like, "So what do you want your tag to say?" I'm like, "Well, it don't matter. Like, what do you mean?" She's like, "Do you want it to say DeKalb County on it, on the back?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." She was like, "Well, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. You should get 'In God We Trust' on the back." I'm like, "Does it really matter?" Here's the reason why she told me that. Because I was telling her what I did for a living. And the areas that I worked in. And at the time, I worked out in Marietta, Roswell, Woodstock, those type of areas. Okay. And she literally told me, she was like, "You will want to get this 'In God We Trust' versus DeKalb County, because police in other areas will see you driving, and because you're from DeKalb County, they're instantly going to stop you. Instantly." And I'm sitting here amazed.
She was white?
Black lady.
Oh, okay.
And I was thrown off because I'm like, it can't be that, it can't be that serious. I'm still, I would say I was still a young, bright-eyed kid, but it literally threw me off. I was like, man, really? My tag made a difference?
Everything. That's the thing.
Everything makes a difference.
You're a black man. I hate to be the woe is me. One thing I do hate, a sidebar, I hate the woe is me conversation of who has it worse. I think with our generation of social media that's happening, that shit needs to stop. This sex war, whatever you're doing with black people, that shit needs to stop. Now, pronto, expediently, rapido. But anyway, the fact is, the matter is, when you're black man, everything matters. Everything. The way I walk, the way I look, the way I talk, the way my hair is, my physique, that shit matters.
Yeah. And that goes back, like we said last on the last show, we were talking about how we're the only race, the only culture that has to explain how to interact with police. I also, like I said, maybe black and brown,
Latino, us, we in basically that's about it.
But we have to explain how to interact with police. We have to explain, or we have to tell our sons or our daughters, say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Keep your hands out of your pocket. Keep your hands in sight.
So one thing I say a lot, especially on my social media, is I fear having children. And there's variables to that. There's different reasons why. Usually when I say it, it's because I'm looking at Gen Z and I'm looking forward. I have to be a futuristic person because of the industry I'm in. I have to look forward, and I'm looking and I don't want to say it because manifestation is real, but I'm like, what is he gonna have to deal with? You know what I'm saying? Like the problems I'm seeing now that 18-year-olds are having, it may not be prevalent, or it could be worse by the time I have my son and he's 18. And so I don't even have a son, but I'm already thinking about whether or not I want to bring him into this world right now. And I don't know how to have. I'm saying I don't know how to have that conversation. I think about that when I'm sitting at home and after I get done with work or have my break. I'm sitting. I'm thinking. I'm like, I want to get married. I want to settle down. But do I want to have children? Do I want to do it now? Do I really want to be that now? I don't know if I want. It's a lot. I don't know. I don't want to run off and bring up, you know what I'm saying, some serious, some deep topics. But
No,
yeah,
it's a lot. I mean, and it's just my personal experience. Like I said, I am a husband and a father. I have a 4-year-old son.
mm,
Every time something happens to a black man in the media, I have to have those thoughts of not only my son being raised in this world, but the also possibility of my son being raised in this world without me.
yeah, shit.
And those are the hardest thoughts that you got to have as a black man. Raising a son, being, and I mean, shout out to all the fathers out there that are doing their things. Raising your son in this world, raising your daughter in this world, and then in the split second, because of some trigger happy cop, all that can change.
George Floyd's daughter, Philando Castile's daughter, they're not gonna know. They were so young, they're not gonna understand the concept of who their father is because of nothing. Like Philando got shot in the car for nothing. George Floyd got his life taken away for what? Like for nothing. I was about to ask you that, but I didn't want you to have to speak about your personal shit. Like, you say he's 4?
4.
I wouldn't. I am. You're better than me. I don't have the capacity. I can't.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. And I mean, if you ever decide to have children, I mean, honestly, it's just there's just no way around it. Because the thing is, and it's not like it's new. My father had the same conversations with me.
I've been thinking about that shit sometimes. I'm like, why do you have why do we? You said it before, but does my manager have to have that type of conversation? Are Asian people having to have that conversation? Well, they're going through something now, so now they are. But in the past times, like, I don't think there's any other race of fathers or mothers.
Even if they're going through it right now, this is 1 year.
And
Compared to the years, and we're talking about
honestly.
centuries of having to have this conversation. The words might have changed, but the message was always clear.
Same.
It's the same message.
And Asians are doing better because within months of whatever event happened, I didn't pay attention because I'm too focused on what's black. But within months of whatever happened with that Asian shit, they got pen to paper legislation for Asian hate. This Asian hate thing, they now have some legislation, a bill saying, I'm not gonna say what it says because I need to look it up. But they have a bill, legislation, words on a white piece of paper, basically giving them a framework of if you do this to someone who's a descendant of Asia, this will happen to you. You will be reprimanded. Bro, I don't know about you, but last time I checked, since civil rights happened between Malcolm and Martin, since we had that Million Man March, I don't fucking know no piece of paper that says if you do this to a black man, woman, you will get this amount of charges or this amount of time on top of whatever you did. We've been doing this shit for 100. So mind you, that should let anyone know that systematic racism. If you have any type of debate, if you refute it, if you argue, if you think this shit ain't real and black people are just complaining, look, and nothing against Asian, stop Asian hate. I'm glad for y'all. Good for you. What I'm upset about is we as black people have been doing this for over a century, and we ain't got nothing, not one letter, not a dot, nothing. What type of shit is that? But yeah,
Very true. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, but I mean, it goes back to what we saying. It's important that we have these conversations to kind of move that along. We don't know who this is reaching. We might be reaching the next lawyer who's gonna go up there and say, "Hey, man, look, we need this." Or I've heard enough. I've seen enough. We need X, Y, and Z.
It's not like people aren't doing the work. Maybe, we don't know. I don't work in Capitol Hill. I don't work in DC yet. But who knows? Maybe someone's doing the work. And respect to the people who are doing the work. Let me say that.
He over president.
Never. I'm not talking about that kind of DC. But respect to all the OGs, all the people who were in civil rights. Rest in peace to Representative Lewis passed away. He marched in Selma. Respect to all our elders in Capitol Hill, pushing legislation, still doing it, but we still unfortunately got along. I'm not talking about them too. I'm talking about the government. I'm talking about what the people who run and own this country are going to allow.
Definitely. So with that being said, man, our next mental illness is anxiety.
I was saying anxiety, right?
It's anxiety. And we literally just talked about anxiety. Mm-hmm. The things that technical definition is characterized by an intense, uncontrollable feeling of fear and worry. That's the technical.
Mm-hmm.
For most black people, for majority of black men, that is our day to day.
Nowadays, especially past decade.
In the past, I was about to say, I would say less than a decade. I say literally in the last 5 years.
It's been definitely worse.
I remember when, and thankfully he's gone and out. I remember when President Trump was elected. Matter of fact, kick it even better. I remember when Barack Obama was elected. Do you know how, and I remember having this conversation, do you know how anxious black people felt when he took the stage?
For him.
To see this pillar of the black community and have a fear that it could be taken away from us.
Right there. As soon as he put his hand up, somebody's going, that's crazy. No other race had to feel like that. White people had not had to feel like that. But go ahead.
It's crazy. I mean, like you said, no other race has to feel this. No other race has to have these moments of, man, this could all end. This could all be taken away. Just to go, like we said, go back to police brutality. Every single time I'm in the car and a police gets behind me, dude, I have an instant fear.
No, you're doing right.
And I know I'm doing everything in my car right, but I have the instant fear because there's a opportune moment for this officer to come up and something happens.
He's having a bad day. The only thing that matters, he's supposed to be trained to handle this situation, but because he's having a bad day, and you say one thing wrong, you're not being respectful to this officer, he can then take you out of your car, use excessive force.
Next thing you know, I'm being shot when he said that he was using a taser.
That was the dumbest shit. So, one thing I don't like to rehash, but for anyone that doesn't know, I was in the Army for 4 years, and I've been trained to do some things, right? And I clearly know we didn't have tasers, but I know how to wait and the feel of a gun is loaded and unloaded. And I know the difference of orientation, basically how the gun holds in your hand and how a taser with a handle holds in your hand is completely opposite. And the guy, he was in the Army too. Now I think he was a lieutenant. Completely opposite. And they're on the opposite sides. A cop has them on the opposite side. So for you to say, in the moment, you were so stressed and you didn't know and you thought you had your taser, it's automatic bullshit. And for the fact that white people know they can do that just because we're black people and they have this country wrapped up and just spew some bullshit like that and know they can get away with it, is very telling. That adds to how can I, as someone as an American, walking day to day, how you think I feel day to day knowing no matter how I interact with white people, I'm losing.
Exactly.
Court, my life with a cop, I'm losing. That makes me anxious as shit every day. That makes me not want to interact with white people, period. I shouldn't have to. I've been on that lately too. I can go on my record saying that. I've been not giving a shit about anyone who's not black. I don't care to interact with white, let me just say majority white people. There's some white people I want to meet. I want to meet Elon Musk, like a muff. I want to meet Bill Gates. I want to meet Mark Zuckerberg. But the average white person, when I'm out, I don't look at them in the eye. I don't interact with them, and I'm not scared of shit. I'm not scared of white people. I'm saying is, I'm on my black shit right now. I don't care about what they have. What they need, they're good. Like they don't. Majority of white people don't need to know me or need me. My people need me. Black people need each other. We need us to elevate. But anyway, like I was saying, that type of I carry that type of anxiety around all day with how I interact with these people. They run and own this country. They run and own the fucking government. I carry around that shit all day, every day with my PTSD.
Exactly. And it's literally, like I said, it's every day. Every day. No matter what. The moment that I leave my house to go to work on a 35-minute drive, and I've had the same thought or kind of like a picture numerous of times going to work. Man, it'd be crazy if I go to work, police get behind me, or if I go to work and somebody who happens to see a young black man driving a Chevy Impala heading on about his business feels the need to get bucked. Then you get mad because I decided to defend myself, and then boom, now I'm facing criminal charges.
And they're not gonna treat you like, you know what I'm saying, self-defense really don't work in our
It don't work in our favor.
It don't work for black people, man. Especially a black man. They gonna say you's bigger, they gonna say you stronger and all that. All that shit work against you. Now that I'm in the court system, all that shit work against me. But when I'm on your field and I'm dribbling the ball, you fucking love how big I am, and how strong I am, how fast I fucking am. But when you get in that moment where you cause a problem, I defend myself. Oh my God, what do you think? He was a black man. He's a big black man. I had to, you know, what do you think? You think I was aggressor against that guy? Yes, the fuck you was. I was minding my business. Like Ahmaud Arbery, I was running through the neighborhood, jogging, minding my fucking business. And you came out here acting like you was fucking Paul Blart Mall Cop, thinking you own some shit, in which all white people have a superiority complex, and you want to fucking bother me. Yes, I defended myself. Now, me, myself, I don't care. I'm going to defend myself. I kind of got an ace in the hole. But even if I didn't, I would, man. I'm not playing.
Yeah. But, I mean, that is the reality that we as black men live in. And, I mean, we can, you know, people will try to deny it and say, well, I've had these conversations. Like I said, I don't have a problem with other races. I've had these conversations with other races that say, you know, we go through the same thing. We deal with some of these too. But one thing that I can say, I have not seen documented proof that you've dealt with what I'm dealing with. I have not seen documented proof. And people love to throw out, oh, well, you know, white people get killed by cops too. And that's true. I will say that. It's true. But black people are killed at a more alarming rate. Not only that, I have never seen a black man who committed a crime or did not commit a crime and was put in the back of a police car and gave McDonald's. I've never seen a black man who committed a crime, and I mean, we've been shot for less. And I've seen people like I forgot the young guy's name who literally walked down the street with an assault rifle, walked past PD, waved his hands, shot I think 2 or 3 people, and then walked back like it was nothing. And then they finally arrested him, and he was alive.
Alive and well. Not alive, well. Was walking so, not a scratch on him, wasn't bruised, nothing. Walked him out daylight like he, you know, punched somebody in the nose. Same dude, the South Charleston, I don't know his name because I don't want to remember his name. He went and shot the church up, shot 12 people in that church. And I guess he does have a mentor. He does. Let me not take away. He probably does. That still doesn't mean he doesn't do the time. I don't even think he did not get a conviction. He didn't need to do a couple months of time in actual jail and then send him to a mental hospital, send them to an asylum, because black people don't get an asylum either. We don't get that choice.
We don't get the choice of pleading
Insanity.
mental insanity.
Insane.
We don't make it to court, and that's the
For the
issue.
most part.
That's the issue. Is the simple fact that you can have your day in court. You can get a jury to decide your fate. Police are not giving us that opportunity. We're being robbed of that opportunity. Whether we did it, if you did the crime or not, you're being robbed of the opportunity because you're not being able to see your day in court. And that's the issue. That's why we're screaming Black Lives Matter. It is not just Black Lives Matter if they're innocent. If something happened and he did it, okay, but his life still matters, even if he's going to go to jail. But you cannot take it upon yourself to be judge, jury, and executioner.
Right on the side of the street. And same thing when it happens to, like, what happens with a cop who killed George Floyd. It's like he gets a paid vacation, and then when he gets off paid vacation, he just switches departments. But he's not even charged. Like, if he didn't do it, he didn't. For as I know, from what I can remember, George Floyd didn't really do anything. And the altercation that caused him to be on the ground, he wasn't even really aggressive. But you killed a man, and so I don't know the exact. I probably should have looked it up. But you got 3 degrees of homicide, and then if it's a mistake, you got manslaughter. So that happened twice with George Floyd and Eric Garner. The cops say, "Oh, I didn't mean to kill him. I was just restraining him." And with George Floyd, if you stay on that man's neck for 8 minutes, I'm pretty sure you as a cop who's been trained in hand-to-hand combat, no, you can't literally sit on a man's esophagus for over 8 minutes and he be fucking alive. Come on, my guy. And he didn't even get, I don't even know if he got in a holding cell, but I'm talking about jail time. I'm talking prison. He didn't get 1 second in fucking, excuse my French, 1 second in prison. That's it. That's what's called involuntary manslaughter. Whether or not you meant to do it or not, someone is dead by your hands. And the government has legislation and a law saying you will go to jail if this is proven. Last time I checked, the coroner said he died of asphyxiation. That's strangulation of the windpipe in the throat. On video, it shows you're the only man touching him while this man's dying. How do you fucking get a paid vacation and you get off? Anyway, we know how that fucking goes. He's white and he's in America. That's how he gets a paid vacation.
So, before we wrap up, I want to go ahead and touch on this last one. You served in the military, so you're familiar with PTSD. So, I'm gonna leave this one to you. You can just kind of explain what PTSD for the bulk of the masses.
All right, so post-traumatic stress disorder. I think it's under the umbrella of a personality disorder, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't want to misquote it. But it's basically a disorder that comes after a severe traumatic experience or event that you have, and that causes inhibition for you to basically live a normal life. It replays sometimes either in your mind or your dreams, and it reinvents itself in day-to-day life, and it causes you not to be able to do certain things or live life normally. Most of the people who are military, the veterans and retirees, you'll naturally hear them say they can't go to places with too many loud noises or too many loud things of popping sounds, sounding like guns are firing. Most veterans we have, when oddly enough, it's funny how America doesn't listen. America doesn't listen to its own people, even as veterans. For Veterans Day, they will have a big fireworks show, but most veterans won't go. Why? Because when we go over to go to war, we have firefights. The only thing we hear 24/7 while you're over there in the sand is guns firing, and fireworks sound pretty close to guns firing, and tanks shooting missiles, airstrikes, and all that shit. For the most part, they can't handle it. I can for somewhat, because I didn't really experience that too bad for me. I'm okay. I can go to like 4th of July and Veterans Day shit. I'm good for the most part. I can last for the most part. But those are the events that most people that have happen with PTSD.
Okay. So, like you said, when you think about PTSD, majority of the time we think about war, we think about our veterans who suffer from it. But like you said, it's dealing with a traumatic event. One of the craziest things that I have read about as far as looking up PTSD was it can stem from anything. It can stem from a sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
It can stem from witnessing a death, domestic abuse in the home, fighting. All these are things that black men experience outside of going to war.
Case in point, growing up, if you grow up in a lower income and an impoverished neighborhood, if you grow up in poverty, period, um, all the rappers are saying it lately, and I agree. I'm not gonna take anything away from you. But if you grow up somewhere, like you said, seeing a death, I think that's like in writing somewhere. That's probably book definition. You grow up in a impoverished neighborhood, unfortunately, you see death probably every other week. And if we all know Chicago, we know they probably see it every day or every other day. That does something to the psyche, to the back of your brain that kind of has to work every day and while you're doing everyday things you don't pay attention to every day. That shit is working on in the back of your brain. So I've seen a body lose its life and drop. When someone gets shot, I've seen a body lifeless drop. And that shit F's with me. When I hear gunshots, I be shooting, I can't understand it. I have no problem with guns to this day. I'll carry a gun and all that. I just don't understand how people waving guns and these young boys on Instagram flagging guns and shit. Like, that shit gets my PTSD rampant. Not out it. That shit kind of prevalent, kind of came up just now. Got off fucking topic.
One of the craziest things that I read online, an article said that black men in the age range of 25 to 35 were more likely to experience PTSD before they even enlisted in the army.
That's a fact.
And like you said, growing up in an impoverished neighborhood, these are things that you would experience on the weekly basis. Like you don't have to go to war to experience PTSD.
I think that's more. I don't know. I got a Twitter, and that's definitely more prevalent. But there's a wide range of things too. Besides, I mean, I know I brought it up, but not just death. It is an extreme event. Don't get me wrong. That's textbook definition. But it could be different things. It could be separation. So let's say you was a young boy and your parents either get divorced, or let's say you were born into your parents out of wedlock, they weren't married, but they were at least together in a home and they were raising you, and somehow the mother and the father, they don't get together and the father leaves and he's not there day to day. That presence of one parent, whether it's the man or the woman, is needed for stability for that young child to grow up at least somewhat healthy. I think we talked about that in the last episode. That event can cause PTSD in a child. He could have, I think it was called attachment issue. A detachment issue, basically saying it's hard for him to make connections after that event happened because he experienced a different type of loss. He didn't experience a death, but it is a loss of someone in his life day to day.
Separation anxiety.
Yeah. I think my therapist. No, I have something different. Not separation. What's it called? Abandonment issues. I got that. That's another thing. That young boy could grow up and have those type of issues where he thinks his dad left him, and if he's not prevalent and had a conversation and know, that could affect him growing up as a man thinking my dad left me. You grow up different, not knowing that he didn't leave. I done heard it plenty of times. Dudes' dads go to prison, or dudes' dads had to move for some reason for a job or some type of thing. They grew up, reconnected with the dad. Is like, shit, I didn't know. I wish you were there. He was like, I tried to. I'm not even gonna get to the fight between the baby dad and baby mom thing, but the father says, I tried to. He's like, I probably would have grew up different with you being here. I probably wouldn't have had these problems. And that shows in PTSD, he's traumatized. He can't connect with women differently because he's scared women are gonna leave him. Like they're scared they're just here for a moment and gonna leave. He got relationship problems. He's traumatized. That shows in his day-to-day life.
Very true. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are some of the mental illnesses that are plaguing the black community as we speak. So how do we combat that? Again, we have these conversations that seem uncomfortable but are needed. We talk more, we can understand more. So, Brother Theo, as always, man, tell the listeners where they can reach you.
Man, so on Instagram at x Mr.TheoX. Check out my podcast at Mental Health Podcast _ on Instagram. You can find the podcast on any available streaming platform wherever you get podcasts. And one resource I want to tell people, I got to give some information. There's a lot of platforms that are giving out people spaces in order to talk. One of them is called Talkspace. So I literally just signed up for it 2 to 3 days ago. So one thing I hate is when people tell you to do something and they probably would never do it. Right hand of God, I signed up for Talkspace myself 3 days ago. It's a platform where it has listings of therapists and counselors and maybe psychiatrists too that you can pick from. Check it out. It's called Talkspace.com. If you feel like you have an issue, go there and get someone to talk to. Please. It's necessary.
Most definitely, man. I'm gonna have to check that out myself. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, King. You can find me on Instagram at I am King Ronin. That's IAMKYNGRONIN. You can also find me at the Menspire brand on Instagram at Menspire brand. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, our goal is to motivate, encourage, and inspire the next generation. Remember, you guys can catch us in the coming weeks for another topic, another show. And again, if you're not tuned in, you're tuned out.